Whoa! Welcome to the Triangle Center for Spiritual Living. It is an absolutely gorgeous day. And I'm knowing that even now people are tearing themselves away from the sun and coming to the sanctuary. Thank you all for being here. Is there anyone that is here for the very first time? Welcome.
Welcome.
Thank you very much for being here. For you who does not know me, my name is Reverend Dusty Ripplemeyer, and I am the spiritual director of this amazing community. Thank you for joining us. We are a Science of Mind community, meaning that we study and practice the teachings of Ernest Holmes. We believe that there is one God, and that God is within us and surrounding us, that there is a power for good in the universe that we can use, and we use it to create lives that we love to live. So we come on Sundays and Wednesdays and most other days of the week to celebrate these truths, to celebrate life, and to support each other on our spiritual path. So thank you for joining us. And thank you very much to all of you that are at home, that are joining us on the live streaming today. It's lovely to be able to be hanging out with you in your living room. So thank you.
Today's reading is by Akash Karia from her book entitled Emotional Habits: The 7 Things Resilient People Do Differently. It reads, one very powerful example of the power of creating emotional change despite the most grim and difficult circumstances is Viktor Frankl, a prominent Jewish psychiatrist and neurologist living in Vienna in the early 1940s. In September 1942, Frankl was arrested and transported to a Nazi concentration camp. As he entered the camp, they took the last of his belongings, including his clothes, his wedding ring, and the manuscript of the book he was writing. Like millions of other Jewish prisoners, Frankl suffered inhumane treatment at the hands of his Nazi guards, from starvation and exhaustion to sickness and unending labor. On top of all of this, he later learned that his wife, father, and brother had been killed in other camps. In his book, Man's Search for Meaning, Frankl wrote, "The one thing you can't take away from me is the way I choose to respond to what you do to me. The last of one's freedoms is to choose one's attitude in any given circumstance." This means choosing joy over sorrow, strength over weakness, or hope over despair. Every living person has a choice, and no behavior is dictated solely by circumstance. So it is.
So welcome to those of you who may have just entered the sanctuary. The theme for the month of February is diversity and inclusivity, finding peace and joy in today's world. My talk title is Bounce Back Power. We all know or have heard about people who have bounced back in their lives, who have turned it around. This represents the ability to move through the struggles of their lives and to not only survive, but to actually thrive. Take J.K. Rowling, for example. She had just gotten a divorce. She was on government aid, and she barely had enough money to feed her baby in 1994, just 3 years before the first Harry Potter book was published. While she was shopping for a publisher, she was so poor that she couldn't even afford a computer. And she didn't have enough money to photocopy the 90,000 word manuscript, so she had to manually type each and every manuscript that she sent out to the publishers, and there were dozens of them, and she received dozens of reject letters. But finally, Bloomsbury decided to give her a second chance because the daughter of the CEO loved the book. Tyler Perry had a very rough childhood. He was physically and sexually abused while growing up. He got kicked out of high school, and he even attempted suicide twice, once when he was a preteen and once when he was 22. At age 23, he moved to Atlanta, picked up a few odd jobs, and started working on his stage career. In 1992, he wrote, produced, and starred in his first theatrical production. He put all of his money into this project, and it was a massive failure. It only lasted one weekend. But he continued to work on the production, picking up more odd jobs and even sleeping in his car to get by. 6 years later, during its 7th run, it became a huge success. Tyler Perry has gone on to become very successful as a director, a writer, and an actor. And in 2011, he was named Forbes' highest paid male entertainer in the entertainment business. Who has heard of the Australian evangelist and motivational speaker Nick Vujicic? A few people. We've shown his YouTubes here many times at the center. But for those of you who have not seen the YouTubes and do not know of Nick, he was born with tetra amelia syndrome, a rare condition which is characterized by the absence of all 4 limbs. Now, as you can imagine, he experienced mental and emotional struggle while he was growing up, to say nothing of the physical struggles. But he finally came to terms with his disability, and at age 17, he started his own nonprofit organization called Life Without Limbs. Today, Nick speaks all over the world, that gives these wonderful, amazing, funny, motivational talks about living life with a disability, about hope, about finding meaning in life. Now, it may seem through these examples that only famous people can bounce back, but truly they were ordinary, normal, everyday people before they bounced back. In a month on diversity and inclusivity, the diversity shows up in that we all experience different struggles in our lives. Nobody's life is exactly the same as your life. Different circumstances, different relationships, different stressors, different inherent abilities to cope. People do not all react to the same traumatic and stressful life events in the same way. The inclusivity shows up in that we all experience some struggles at some time. Part of being human means that you are going to face some major crisis. A loss of a loved one, a diagnosis, a fire in your home, being let go from a job that you've had for 20 years, or maybe even a divorce. Maybe the event or the circumstances has happened right now in your life, or maybe it happened in the past when you were a child or a young adult. The inclusivity shows up in that we all have an opportunity. We all have the possibility of bouncing back. We are all capable of finding peace and joy in today's world. So when life happens, how do you deal with pain and move forward? what makes some people flourish despite facing adversity or stressful life events, and others get stuck or crumble on the weight with the weight of it all. Now, what I believe is that it's the power of resilience. Resilience, by definition, is the human ability to adapt in the face of tragedy, trauma, threats, and ongoing significant life stressors, such as serious health problems, workplace stress, and financial difficulties. Resilience is what gives people the psychological strength to cope with stress and hardship. It is the mental and physical reservoir of strength and faith that people have to tap into, to draw upon, to call on in times of need. Being resilient doesn't mean that you're not going to face some struggles, that there aren't going to be some stressful times in your life. People who possess resilience don't see life through rose-colored glasses. Emotional pain and sadness are common to all people who suffer major adversity or trauma. Resilience simply means the ability to bounce back from different experiences. People who lack resilience can be overwhelmed by the experiences of their lives. They dwell on the pain and they use unhealthy coping mechanisms to get by. Resilient people, on the other hand, don't fall into despair, and they don't hide from their problems either. They face their problems, their difficulties head on. They handle the difficulties or the challenges in ways in which they are able to foster growth and strength. And in many cases, they end up even stronger than they were before. Resilient people, more resilient people, are able to roll with the punches. They adapt to adversity without any lasting difficulties. Less resilient people have a harder time with stress and life changes, both little ones and big ones. They have found that people that are able to handle minor stresses are more easily capable of dealing with major ones with ease and with grace. Studies of events such as 9/11 or the rebuilding of New Orleans after Hurricane Katrina show that most people are much stronger than what we give ourselves credit for. We all run around and work so hard to try to avoid hardships and doubt our ability to be able to live through them, to be able to not only survive but to thrive. But in reality, when they actually do arrive, most of us find the strength to cope. Most of us find the strength and the ability to move through them and to not only survive, but to thrive in really amazing and very powerful ways. Psychologists say that resilience is a commitment. It's a commitment to finding purpose in whatever is happening. It's a commitment to believing in your ability to create a positive outcome. How many of you have ever heard of a woman named Ping Fu? I hadn't either. But I found her story in a blog by New York Times best-selling author May Fox. Now, to understand her story, I would like you to imagine being torn out of your mother's loving arms at 8 years old. The next thing you know, you're alone, and you're being crammed into a train filled with a whole bunch of people that are going to some other city, some city that you barely know. You think that At least your aunt and uncle that you've met a few times before will be there to greet you when you arrive. But instead, you're greeted by a couple of very threatening-looking teenagers dressed in uniforms who take you and throw you into a dormitory where you meet up with a bunch of other ragtag young children. When you set foot in the small, dirty room, you become aware that your 4-year-old sister is laying on the hard, bare concrete floor sobbing. She desperately needs your tender, loving care. In one day, you have lost not only your mother, but you have become one also. Ping Fu's journey only grows more remarkable from those traumatic moments. She went on to face 10 years of near starvation, abuse, and child labor as a factory worker and a soldier during the Cultural Revolution in China. She received no formal education at that time. But Ping never let these bitter experiences defeat her. On the contrary, she found beauty in nature and kindness in small acts of generosity by some friends and some neighbors. She refused to grow hard, instead opening her heart to compassion for all of humanity. After arriving in the United States at age 25 with only $80 in her pocket and just a few words of English available to her, she funded her way through school by working as a computer programmer. She has since triumphed as the founder and CEO of Geomagic, a software company that is leading the 3D printing and imaging revolution. In 2005, Ping was named Inc. magazine's Entrepreneur of the Year. You can read about her story in her memoirs, Bend, Not Break. Ping Fu. Patience also means making the choice to be grateful despite the situation. Darren Weissman, in his book, Infinite Love and Gratitude, reminds us that the attitude that we have toward whatever it is that we are going through is our choice. It's our choice. Amy spoke of that. Two people can go through the exact same experience with two very different attitudes. We are able to choose whether the glass is half empty or the glass is half full. Rather than surrender to the emotions of negativity and despair, we can choose to courageously accept the challenges as opportunities. To do so immediately transforms the situation, transforms the challenge, transforms the pain into an opportunity to develop your higher self. An attitude of gratitude expands the experience of our lives beyond one of suffering, beyond one of victimhood, into a deeply grounded awareness of the infinite possibilities and potential that are available to us, to all of us, with no exception. Resilience is, to a degree, something that we're born with. Researchers used to believe that only certain people had it, that you were either born with the ability to be resilient or you were not. But we now know that this is not the truth, that resilience involves behaviors and thoughts and beliefs and actions that can actually be learned and can be developed in anyone. If you know what to do, you can become more resilient, even if you are typically more sensitive to life's difficulties. If you knew what to do. Want to know what to do? Okay, I have a few suggestions. The first is to become aware. Part of resilience is emotional awareness. It's important to understand what you're feeling and why. Sometimes people can become overwhelmed with their feelings, and this frightens them and it immobilizes them. Knowing why you feel upset can give you valuable information about what needs to be changed in your life. Remember, it's your life. You're responsible for it. So reflect on it. Reflect on what is really happening in any situation. Get clear about it. Ask yourselves, what is really going on? How is it affecting me? What am I saying to myself about what is going on? Do I feel powerless? Am I afraid? Where and how can I access my personal power? The second is to develop the right attitude. Resilient people tend to view life's difficulties as challenges and respond accordingly with action, rather than with fear, self-pity, blame, or a victim mentality. While life can be very challenging, an important step in becoming more resilient is to develop positive self-talk. You know that stuff that you say about yourself? If you experience it as something negative, the invitation is to let it go. To let go of any and all negative self-talk and begin to just fill yourself with positive self-talk. If you can take a step back from difficult situations long enough to maintain your sense of humor, your sense of humor will get you through. Your sense of humor will create more resilience. The third is to reframe the situation. Reframe the experience by activating your curiosity. Ask, what is going on here, really? And then listen without censoring for all of the possibilities that may be revealed. While we can't always control our circumstances, we can control how we respond to the circumstances, and how we respond makes a big difference in our attitude. And what our attitude is, because we live from the inside out, really makes a big difference in the course of our life. We can shift that by simply becoming more aware and reframing the situation. The fourth is to rally social support. That was a hard thing. Rally social support. Now, while we ultimately move through and face our own challenges alone, a supportive friend or a group of friends can help to lighten the load. Reach out to your family. Reach out to your friends. Reach out to your spiritual community. That is why we are here. Be willing to accept support. Let me repeat that. Be willing to accept support and assistance by those that you care about, and by doing so, you will strengthen your resilience. Practice critical awareness is the fifth. I don't know if you've noticed it or not, but as a human being, we typically believe most of what we perceive through our perceptions. Now, if we want to cultivate a resilient spirit, we need to know how to reality check what we are perceiving. So in a way, a good way to do that is to be able to ask yourself and then to answer for yourself some questions like these. Is what I am feeling, hearing, or seeing real? Is what I am telling myself about what I am seeing, hearing, or feeling the truth? Becoming more critically aware of what our perceptions are telling us and why, recognizing the voice overlay that comes along with that perception, and being able to reframe that story will bring you greater resilience. Number 6, look for opportunities for self-discovery. Instead of placing blame outside of yourself for what you are experiencing, be willing to do the inner work of self-discovery. People often learn something about themselves through the struggles that they are going through. They may find that there's some aspect of themselves that has grown as a result of the struggle. Many people who have experienced tragedies and hardship have reported a deepening of their relationships, a sense of strength even while they are feeling vulnerable, an expansion of their self-worth and a deepening of their appreciation for life itself. Julie Hirsch, in her article, Faith, the intangible faith force in resilience, says, "For me, ruminating on pain only makes the pain larger. Oftentimes, that pause for reflection allows me to transfer focus from my wounds to how those wounds might cause some greater growth or insight. Stepping back from a problem, acknowledging it, and attempting to understand its interconnection to the world outside allows me to chart a new course of action." It allows for us to shift our focus from the cup being half empty to the cup being half full. Number 7 is don't give up. Don't give up on your situation. Don't stop working toward getting through it. Trust the process. Know that divine right action is always in play. Maintain a positive, healthy outlook. Stretch to achieve a realistic optimism. Try to picture what it is that you really want instead of putting your attention on what you really fear. Maya Angelou says, "I may be changed by what happens to me, but I refuse to be reduced by it." And lastly, number 8 is to remember who you truly are. Resilient people do not let adversity define them. Resilient people recognize that they are children of God, imbued with the allness of possibility, that they have within them everything that they need to gracefully move through whatever challenge it is that they are experiencing. At the heart of resilience is a belief in oneself and a belief in something greater than oneself. Studies have shown that those who are more spiritual are also more resilient as well. Resilience is rooted in a tenacity of spirit, a determination to embrace all that makes life worth living, even in the face of overwhelming odds. A tenacity of spirit. Determination to embrace all that makes life worth living. The belief in something greater than ourselves and that we are all connected and in this together creates healing and strengthens resilience. Last week I attended a family reunion in Branson, Missouri. We spent a day on the grounds of the top of the Rock, Johnny Morris's nature preserve in the heart of the Ozarks, or so the ads say. At one point, we took golf carts and we explored the Lost Canyon Cave and the nature trail. It was a stunning day and absolutely beautiful. And I remember standing with my nephew, Luke. They all have biblical names. Luke, Jacob, Isaiah, all of them. One time they were going to have a new little baby, and they were trying to figure out what to name it. And I suggested Deuteronomy, so they could just, because then they could just call him Dude. Oh, they didn't buy it. He ended up Eli. Anyway, I digress. So I remember standing with my nephew Luke and marveling at the way that these streams of water were working themselves down this mountainside through what appeared to be solid rock. And I was reminded of this moment last Wednesday when Reverend Betty talked about the Tao, which invites us to be like water, to go with the flow. Bruce Lee says, be like water making its way through cracks. Do not be assertive, but adjust to the object, and you shall find a way around or through it. If nothing within you stays rigid, outward things will disclose themselves. So the invitation today is to find peace and joy through the power of resilience, to be like water, to go with the flow, to find the path of least resistance. Lean into your innate resilience or be willing to develop it. Know that the ability and the power to bounce back is a choice, one that we can make time and time again, no matter what circumstance we find ourselves within. And so it is. So it is. So I invite you to turn within for a moment. And it is here with my eyes closed and my attention turned inward that I am acutely aware of the power and presence of God that is within me and surrounding me. I feel that presence. I'm grateful for that presence. I know that I am closer to it than my hands and feet, that it is the very breath that I breathe. I know that it created me in its likeness and image. That right where I am is the allness of possibility. And just as I know that this is true for me, I know that it is true for each and every person here today. That each of us is a unique and divine expression of God, God's ambassador of itself on the planet at this time. And it is from that place of unity, that deep and abiding connection to God and to each other and to life itself, that I speak these words about and for each of us today. Truly knowing that we are spiritual beings having a human incarnation, and that despite what our human perceptions may be telling us at any given moment, in any given situation, the truth is that we are already whole, perfect, and complete. The truth is that we have everything within us to move through any experience that we find ourselves within. The truth is that right where we are, God is, as wisdom, as creativity, as divine right action. And what I know for each of us is that there is ease and grace around inviting peace and joy into our lives. That we can lean into the resilience that we arrived on the planet with, or we can develop it. That we have friends and family and spiritual communities to support us as we move through the experiences of our lives. That truly that is why we are here for each other. I claim ease and grace around allowing who we really are to be at the forefront of our mind. Letting go of anything unlike the truth. Letting anything go that is unlike the presence of God within us. Allowing space to fill us with positive self-talk. Making way for the world that we truly want to experience. I claim ease and grace around all of this for us. And I'm so grateful to know this truth, so grateful to speak these words. So grateful for the power of prayer, knowing that these words are loosed into a law that only ever says yes. That they are made whole, perfect, and complete, even as they are spoken. And so I speak them and I release them with love and with gratitude. And I invite everyone to anchor them for themselves and for each other, simply by saying, and so
it is.
It is. Amen.
Thank you.
Amen.
Thank you. Most of you know that while she's speaking, I write down little notes and I do a little rap on the spot based on what I've heard. And I will do that again today at the end of this tune. And this is the first song off of my CD, Intimate with the Infinite, which is available today. And I just love this tune. It's called Power. I feel like that's what she was talking about. We all have that power within us to be resilient. There's a power in a seed, reminding itself how to become a tree. There's the power in a cell, and it's capable of making a you or a me. There's a power in a word, vibrating at a frequency. And there's a power inside that power, inside that power. If you know it, sing it with me. Love, 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 love. One more time. Love, 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 love. Thank you, Robin, for doing the dance, although you're missing the jazz hands. And you can feel it revealed when an open, broken heart begins to be healed. It breaks like the sky when a long, dark night starts spinning on the wheel of the world. Watch it rise. Out of the ashes comes another day, a bright light shining through your eyes. So much surprise every time we fall in love, 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 love. Everybody follow Robin. Love, 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 love. Shimmy it out, come on. Love, 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 love. All right, here's your rap. It's coming. Without resilience, we would have no Harry Potter. Without hope and hard work, failure would have got her. Persevere and have no fear, and you will have success. See the glass is half full and know that you are blessed. We all have struggles. We all have times of need. We don't have to crumble under weight of tragedy. With resilience, we find the strength to cope. Roll with the punches from pain to hope. We don't have to survive. We can thrive. Choose to bounce back. It is why we are alive. Be grateful despite the situation. Transform, develop to your highest elevation. No victim mentality, only infinite possibility. Be aware, reflect, and get clear and see. Reframe. This is longer than the first one, right? I just kept writing. Reframe and claim with the positive attitude. Let go of a negativity and fill with gratitude. Don't always believe what you perceive. Let go, cause sometimes you don't know what you think you know. Wounds become windows into a deeper truth. I love that. Wounds become windows. That's going to be a song anyway. Wounds become windows into a deeper truth. See through every battle and do not be reduced. Remember who you truly are. You must know. Be like the water and go with the
Flow.
hey. Come on, give it up. I made that up. You communities, you just get spoiled.
We thought it was still going on.
Oh, there's a force in the fist. When unclenched, it ceases to exist. It shifts into light. So much freedom releases from the wrist. Insist on bliss, insist on bliss, insist on bliss. Sing it with me. Insist on bliss, insist on bliss, insist on bliss. And love, 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 love. I'd like to ask you all to stand up. Love, 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 love. And do the dance. It's just easy. It goes love, 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 love. Come on, sing it with me now. Love, 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 love. Hug yourself. Said love, 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 love. I can't believe I can make you do this. There's a power in a seed, reminding itself how to become a tree. There's a power in a cell, capable of making a you or a me. There's a power in a word, love, vibrating at a frequency. And there's a power inside that power, and back of all that power, you know what it is? Liberace, you got nothing on me. His love. I figured out how to get a standing ovation every time. I love you so much, Triangle.